I'll just get on the gallery. I'll get on the list.
Because in my profession,
Like for the Wi-Fi?
it's going to be tricky for me to.
It's okay. I'll go on. I'll get on the guest.
I'll think of a way to.
It's 7 o'clock.
I can't see the.
Good evening, and thank you for coming. It's 7 o'clock, and I'll call the, I almost said September, the February 27th, 2017 school board meeting to order. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Kate, if you would do the roll call, please.
Absolutely. I am here. Lisa Collins.
Here.
Rebecca Reber. Here. Gary Dunlap.
Here.
Tom Cruise.
He is excused.
Thank you. Jaden Byer.
I think he is excused.
Cheryl Hancock.
Here.
And Anita Jagosinski.
Here.
Okay, so with 6 of the 7 school board members present, I would declare a quorum. Approval of the agenda. I would note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to the agenda as published? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as
So
published.
approve.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Public participation. Is there anyone who wishes to address the board relative to any item at this time? We ask that a 5-minute time limit per person be followed. Please come forward, state your name, address, and topic to be addressed. And I'm not seeing anyone coming forward, so we will move on to recognition and thank you. Dr. Mueller.
Yeah, wanted to recognize that it was National School Breakfast Week. For more than 30 years, the school breakfast program has contributed to the health and educational development of our state's children by making nutritious breakfasts in our schools. So coming up here, March 6th through 10th, we'll celebrate our supervisor, Mike Gasper, and his staff for their dedication to our students. So thank you to the nutrition services staff.
Okay. Yes,
Do
thank
you
you.
know how many people, how many of your kids have breakfast? I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No,
I know
not off
it's
the top of
lots.
my head, I don't.
That's
But
fine,
they-
but it's really, really cool.
yeah,
How
with
many took part?
the surround care with the YMCA in our elementaries, we have quite a few students that have breakfast at the school. So
Mike is a gift.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you very much. And then moving on to district administrators report, Dr. Mueller.
yeah, we were very fortunate. We had a top-notch teacher for February, Chris Sullivan, our business teacher at Holmen High School. So we want to celebrate him and his success for his great work in the classroom. I hear many good things about him and how fun his class is. So, and he has a great partner he works with too. Yeah, they're a great team. Our business department at the high school is a great team. Referendum information. We had our first community session this last Thursday. It was great. We had a few community members come and ask lots of great questions. We have one coming up on Wednesday, March 15th at 6 o'clock at our high school LGI, and also Saturday, March 25th at 10 a.m. at our high school LGI. We also have our website. I want to remind people that go to under About Us. It has a referendum 2017, and there's lots of information. We just posted up some top quality videos, and we also mailed out a special edition newsletter to folks in the community, and sent out an email blast about our referendum. So lots of information out there. This last week was FFA week. Our FFA students are always doing amazing things. I even caught Mr. King in the parking lot, and he was telling me the students actually baked cinnamon rolls and brought them out to the farmers at their houses to thank them for what they do. Just love how the students are connecting with the community and doing things of those. That was just one of the many things they did this last week. So thank you to our FFA advisors and students.
When I used to teach fourth grade, my kids and parents would say the trip they took with Holmen FFA was one of those trips you will remember when you're 40.
Yeah.
You know how there are certain memories? It is so amazing what those kids do.
Very impressionable. Also, WEAC President Duff Martin announced that Holmen, as a flagship district, and has partnered with us in our Read Across America. And Viking Elementary was chosen as a school that they're going to celebrate within. And they are doing all kinds of activities. They have an assembly later this week. They have books they're giving to kids. They're ordering cakes. They're doing all kinds of great things in celebration of reading. And then we had our National History Day at the middle school this last week. It was very well attended as usual. I am always so impressed with the talent of our middle school students. I actually caught a couple of the performances, and boy, it was something else. So congratulations to those students for finishing their National History Day projects. Many of them are relieved right now, one being my daughter. There's a nice group of them that will move on to regionals, so we wish them luck. And parent-teacher conferences, it's that season. They're at the high school tonight, so they will, all the schools have them in the month of March here, so be sure to check your school newsletters. And, sorry, this is a long one. Just one more thing I need to talk about. We have some amazing athletic sports teams right now showing their capabilities. Our wrestling team is going to state on, they'll probably leave on Thursday, but Friday, they'll be up there, Madison, and competing at our state tournament. So congratulations to them. We have some qualifiers for our powerlifting also at the state meet. Forrest Thorson qualified, so he'll be going on. And then we also had Brooklyn Paulson. She scored her 1,000 point in her basketball career. She had 22 points versus Logan past Saturday, and so she's the fourth girl to accomplish this feat in Holmen. So just a lot of great things going on all around. So I'll stop with that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Any questions? I know it's always great for you to pull out some of those things to snippet for the board and for the community. So thank you, Dr. Mueller. Reports and discussion. I will call on Lish Olson and group to report on the academic and career planning for employment.
Well, there's quite a group of us, so Carrie's going to start off by introducing everybody here.
Good evening. We have some of our committee members here. We want to give credit to all committee members that are here and not here. Myself, I'm Carrie Huth. We have Lish Olson, Tim Bakeberg, nope, I got it, Amy McCutcheon, and Guy Turner with us today to talk us through our work with ACP and
And Carrie, if you could use the mic or sit in front of the mic because it's recorded and it just comes off better in the recording. Thank you.
We'll go.
So the purpose of academic career planning and education for employment, when we created this plan, we wanted it to fit within our district vision, educating every student to achieve global success. So we looked at what that meant specifically for our students when they leave us. So what are we preparing them for? So our vision became reimagining K-12 education to equip students with meaningful and supportive adult relationships and the ability to adapt to opportunities and challenges on their personalized journeys to successful lives, knowing that when they leave us, they probably don't know exactly what they want to do, but hopefully they are ready to be able to confront those challenges and move through them positively. And so our mission became to empower all students to travel the road to adulthood through the education and training that we provide them while they're here with us.
So knowing that it's a academic and career plan as well as Education for Employment Plan. We brought the two together. The Education for Employment Plan has been within our district since 1988. The purpose of this plan is to prepare students for future employment, lifelong learning, and good citizenship. And in 2013, Wisconsin passed a state statute that introduced the academic and career plan. And so we've spent the last few years putting together the plan for the school district of Holmen, with the implementation target being mandated from the state for 2017-2018.
So when we looked at that, we needed to revise our education for employment plan, and we had the academic and career plan statute to meet. We decided to look at the requirements of both and put them together into one cohesive plan that would meet the needs of both of those statutes and meet the needs of our students. So we did some work to look at what we had already and what we needed to do to be able to put that in place. Education for employment gave access to all students for the career and tech ed classes, but we know that that's not everything either, so we wanted to look at all the different ways that students access this support to be able to explore possibilities and then potentially choose a path to what they might want to do in adulthood. So some big ideas we had is we want to create a culture of college going or career readiness. We want to honor any path that a student may choose while they're here with us. Whatever you want to do when you leave us is good, and we want to help you get there. We also wanted to build and maintain relationships with our local businesses. We have some good things going through our transition program for our students with special needs, through our youth apprenticeship, and through some of our academies that we have at the high school. So we looked at what we had there, and we want to be able to build upon those opportunities that we already have in place for some students. And we also want to look at how we can build on what we already do with our families and then increase the engagement with them looking at the plan with their child and being able to look at it together on a regular basis to know that what they're planning is going to get them to where they want to be later on in their future. And then also we want to make sure that everybody has the means and the opportunity and the preparation to be successful in whatever the path is that they choose. And instead of asking the question of, oh, I can't do that, instead saying, how can I get there, or what do I need, or what do I not have yet? So helping to support that growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So how we accomplish this, like I said, we kind of analyzed everything that we have in place, and then we did a community needs analysis too. So what are the top paying jobs, what are the high needs areas, and what can we do to meet the needs of our community there? And then we also looked at the rubrics that the DPI supplied for implementation. And we looked at, again, what do we already have, what do we need? We did a gap analysis there to figure out some of the offerings that we already had were doing great things for kids, and some of them we needed to add some things to meet those needs. And then we adopted career cruising as the supplied vehicle for housing all the student work. So career cruising is something we had already been using in the middle school, and we're expanding it now at 6 through 12 for all the students to have one place to house all their work all through school, and they maintain access to that after they leave us as well. And then we provided some introductory PD for our middle school and high school staff to help them understand academic and career planning in their role as well.
So with some of the highlights at the middle school, we had a lot of them in play, which was great already, with our Exploration Academy really stemming off of our 7th graders and having the planning conferences with the students, parents, and counselors. Those counselor planning conferences are roughly around an hour long. And now, again, with the addition of career cruising, the 10th year in the program, continuing to use that, the learning styles and goal setting has now been branched off of just primarily originally with our counselors to now into some other areas, and the Exploration Academy allows for students to revisit those goals year after year. As we know, it changes from a 6th grader mindset to an 8th grader and what that focus is. Excuse me. Also, our 8th graders, they just partook a little bit ago with a career fair. That was the day that was potential for snow cancellation, and our kids, they had a wonderful time, great experience, great exposure to the different offerings, whether it be 2 4-year programs, different apprenticeships, and different military branches of service. Also, the transition planning for 8th grade also just recently happened as well, where the students, or they're going through that right now, excuse me, where they are taking a look at what the course offerings are and how that aligns with their goals from their individual planning conferences. So again, a lot of great pieces of this ACP plan have already been in place at the middle school, and we do have some future goals here that kind of stemmed from it. I think we actually have to. I thought there's some more. Sorry. So the guidance lessons and individual meetings with the school counselors, we're going to continue on with that, and the lessons that kind of go along for our students to kind of see what those offerings are going to be, especially at the middle level, so as not to have a student not prepared, because there are offerings that are available for them even at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Another goal was for our staff access. A number of staff didn't know that the career cruising access was available to them, as well as what their students' interests were, and having those files being accessible so that staff could meet the needs of their students, but also start to spark some interest into the students that maybe were focused in on a science area, a field that they did not know existed, and now there's that connection. So our staff has that ability to support their instruction. With our career clusters and with what career cruising has to offer, each class, again, coming back to what ACP stands for, again, showing what not only courses to take in middle level, but high school, as well as post-secondary offerings, and connecting those with our future encore, or we have for our elective courses, to kind of focus those students towards their passions. Again, each year that may change, but the ACP flexibility that is a future goal for staff to provide that connection. And lastly, we've already started to have some community engagement at the middle level, but to increase that, to have our students understand what options are available to them at the middle level, to as well as with the families, to connect to this plan, to have that engagement so that it is holistic for that student's experience at Holmen Middle School.
So as far as the high school goes, there's a few things that we already have in place as well. The reality store is something that we've done for a number of years now. We actually just switched it this year. So it had been juniors that would go through that reality store every year, and now we're switching it to where the seniors will go through that before they graduate. That will be offered next fall. We also have the Career Expo for all juniors, which is in the fall as well. The student services also have classroom lessons, and then they meet with all students every year just to go over their plan, the classes that they're going to take, and I'm sure Tim could talk more about that, but okay. And then we also have personal finance as a course requirement. So when it talks about in our ACP plan, like building resumes and interviewing and that type of stuff, we cover a lot of that in our personal finance courses. Also, the last one, Tim can talk about these, but youth options, youth apprenticeship, and career academies that he is definitely our expert at with all of our students.
Sure. So I can help out. This is why we're tagging. So youth options, of course, taking college level courses as a high school student, and I've visited with the board about this in the past. We're seeing always increased use of this program. Youth apprenticeship is allowing students out into that work environment, really working closely with our industries and our businesses, and doing that on-the-job training. It's been a wonderful opportunity for our students, and we're seeing more and more interest from our business partners to bring students in. And then the career academies, right now we have the Health Science Academy through La Crosse, the STEM Academy partners with Western, and an Automotive Diesel Academy at West Salem. And bumping down to future goals, that ties in real well that we want to really explore potential of what we could do here in-house as far as academies go. We know there are definitely interest areas our students have, and those needs are not being met. But that takes time, and it takes some focus. But that's definitely something we want to look at down the road to make sure that we can meet those needs and we don't have to outsource. Also increase of student use of career cruising. Like was mentioned, this is our first year at the high school, so I think the staff probably isn't real well versed. The students, this is old hat for them. They had it at the middle school, but there's a lot of untapped potential in that software. It's amazing what's all held within that software. We just have to figure out how to use it. Streamlined student scheduling process. We're right in the middle of scheduling. We know that we can use career cruising, for example, to do our scheduling. So it can be a living document. We can look at their 4-year plans, build it, and they can see real time what that schedule should look like and compare it, in contrast to what they had for classes the previous year. So I think career cruising is going to help with that. And then, of course, going back to what Guy had mentioned about that community awareness and parent involvement, we know we do a lot of things well, and we're meeting a lot of those ACP goals, but that parental involvement and bridging with the community is definitely something that we want to explore and try to develop further. We need to get those partnerships created. Yeah. So, next slide. That's it.
I will share, though, that we plan to meet quarterly to continue this work. No, it's fine, thank you. And then again, annually to review the plan and just see where we are at with the implementation goals and see what we need to do differently in the following year to be able to meet that. In the past couple of weeks, we've actually had some really positive response from DPI where they called me and asked me, what did you guys do to get to this plan? This is fantastic. We're hearing great things about this. And that's really a credit to our team. They've worked really hard for the last couple of years to really assess what we're doing and what we need to do. And they've been very open to saying, yeah, that sounds great, let's do it. So we're excited to still meet on a quarterly basis until we get rolling and then looking at it on an annual review basis.
Okay, are there any questions? Kate?
Tim, and you don't need to go because maybe you're not sure yet, but you mentioned that a goal is to have more in-house.
Right.
Are there specific areas you're looking at that we currently outsource, or are you just in the planning
Sure.
stages?
Yes. As far as specific, is that a good answer? As far as specifics, we know the healthcare industry is a strong interest area for our students. What's that? And a need for a community. So I look at, our students that are getting the nursing assistant at Western right now. Is that something we can be looking at in-house to earn those CNAs? Not really an academy, but definitely a need. When we look at technology, and maybe we can start focusing on what we do really well within our building. I look at our marketing and business programs. We've got great strength there. I look at our ag and tech ed areas. There are other schools in our consortium or in our area that don't have those strong programs, and I think those are areas we can maybe look a little further into as potential.
So that actually our students could pick up some credits in-house? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, there's more and more discussion about dual enrollment credits.
Right.
So where we can partner with the Westerns, even the UW Platteville's or UW La Crosse's, and earn college credit and high school credit at the same time.
Thank you. That's
Yep.
really quite exciting.
It is.
Other questions?
I have one. Well, it's kind of out of left field, and maybe you can offer some comments on this. I recently worked with 3 Holmen graduates, and I think they're all second-year college students. One's at technical school, and 2 of them are at UWL. And it's in a healthcare situation where I'm working with these girls and smart kids. You could tell they were well educated, ready to go. But when it came to sign up for 401k, medical insurance, and I spent a couple hours with these kids they had no clue about 401k, and I had to explain to them where credit card debt
We're
came
trying, I
from.
promise. Personal finance, we do talk about those types of things. It's certainly at that point, I mean, you hope that in some cases they're getting to the point where they're thinking about it, but I think in a lot of times they get to that situation and it's scary. I mean, they're on their own, and but certainly we are trying. That is definitely part of our curriculum for personal finance that they take as a junior.
For the medical part, I sat down and explained to them, I said, here's the risk you guys are taking. Tried to explain to them the risk they're taking by not having medical insurance, or at least catastrophic medical insurance. And they looked at me like it was all brand new, and it kind of scared me a little. It's a small, teeny piece of the population, I know that, but I think it's something that these kids absolutely should know when they leave here, and that is credit card debt, 401k, medical insurance, those types of things. If they're going to be they're employable, obviously, because they're smart kids and they're doing a great job. But boy, they didn't have a clue.
Other questions? Anita?
I guess I just had a comment, Lish, when you first started talking, the one thing you said that stuck in my mind was to honor any path that a student chooses. And I guess I wrote that down and underlined it a couple times, because so often nowadays when we hear the way that the state kind of wants to guide kids to go is not the path that they might choose. It's the path that they think they should go to become most employable. I like your path a little better.
It's not just mine.
No, I like what you said, I guess. The path that they choose. I like that.
That was important
To
to us.
honor that, that's very important. So, anyhow, I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you. Nice job, you guys.
Anything else? So I note that at the Curriculum Council, we had a report on this, and one of the issues I identified and concerns raised is staffing. Someone mentioned that it's usually an hour meeting with parents and students, and you take that and multiply that by the number of students we have, and then you take prep time that has to happen. And just curious, and I know that counselors are coming, the bulk of it is falling on the shoulders of our counselors, and as Lish said, it would be nice if other staff, faculty could take some of that time on too, but we're not there yet. And in the time being, I love this program. I think it's a great thing, and it's nice to know we've been doing it since 1988, long before I was on the board, and so it's nice to see that the vision was here even then. But I worry that it's one of those things we're just putting on the backs of our staffing, and so I'm hoping when the counselors come, we can hear a little bit about staffing recommendations for counselors, what the DPI is suggesting, how do we meet up. So I'm kind of saying, can that be pulled, that data pulled, and how do we compare to our conference colleagues as far as counselors per students? I know DPI has that, but that would be of interest to me to say, okay, we're doing a good job, or okay, we're a little bit, we're ahead of the DPI but behind the conference. It still would be nice to know, because we keep hearing about the competitor to the south of us. Well, it's nice to know what they're doing, and I heard anecdotally they do have more counselors per students than we do, but I don't know that as a fact, and so I'd like to see some of that data. So I'm just putting that out there. And
I think we might just happen to have that
I'm
handy.
yeah.
So,
Cheryl, in response to that, and working with the school counselors right now, they are going to be presenting their curriculum to you shortly in the spring, and part of what you're requesting is what they have done.
Good.
So I know they will be able to share that with you.
Okay, I just want to reinforce that that's something that we're interested in, because we hear, and everybody has that in their workplace. I know Gary's talked about even in his workplace that things just keep getting lopped onto people, and they're asked to do more, and you're never asked to take anything off the plate. So, and I know with Tim's position, we added a halftime counselor, and then Tim does the gifted and talented, or talent and gifted, whatever we call it in Holmen. And so that was something that we had done in response to that. But it'd be nice to know how that did, and how are we for middle school too. So, okay. So if there aren't any other questions, we thank you very much for your presentation, and keep up the good work. Thank you so very much. And then we are moving on, as they are finishing up, we're moving on to the science curriculum. And I think Josh and Steve are here to present on that.
Good evening. And first of all, we want to thank the middle school science teachers and the high school science teachers for doing all their hard work. Stacey Owen for typing up this document and our whole curriculum. Carrie Huth and Wendy Sadowski for their support, what they do, as well as the school administration. Hi, Ryan. So we want to thank them because it takes a lot of work to go through this, as you all know, and we just couldn't do it ourselves. So what we want to do here is go through, like we do with the curriculum council, and thank them as well. But to go through, give you guys an idea of what our new curriculum is going to look like, what it's aligned to, where we made changes, and kind of give you an overview of where this is headed. What we're looking at here is Next Generation Science Standards, which came out a few years back, and we kind of jumped on that right away. Looking at that allows us to go deeper in our curriculum as opposed to really thin and spread out and not just covering material, but making sure that we teach to mastery and look at the learning involved and looking at the three pillars of it, science, engineering practices, the core ideas, and the cross-cutting concepts, as well as support the Common Core. If you take a look at this website, go to NGSS, and you'll see the framework, or the scientific framework for that. And you can see that every unit that we go through, every standard performance expectations, supports one portion of reading, writing, or math Common Core. And so what we're doing with reading and writing within the sciences supports that, as well as the math concepts and things that we do, which has a nice, basically cousins of each other. Like I said, we're going to go deeper in our curriculum and foster more critical thinking, foster more argumentation, do activities, STEM approach, or where they create a claim and gather evidence and support that and argue that out with each other, with me, or with the teachers, and just get the reasoning behind what they have and be more open-ended in that, and then take a look at their depth of knowledge and make sure they're thinking more than just recall hows and why and what happens, and let them take that to the next level of applying that outside the classroom. So whenever they're doing whatever the science engagement with that, so they can solve those problems and having that skill set for the 21st century.
At the high school level, one of the things that we're looking at is restructuring some of our courses, especially the pacing, to allow for more in-depth investigations and to support the science practices, which are really a big piece of this, not just looking at the content, but how you learn the content and process it and demonstrate it, always kind of modeling that scientific approach a little bit more. So looking at incorporating that more in our classes, and when we looked at our gap analysis, our biggest gap was in the earth and space sciences, which we knew would be the case with our current course sequence. We are including some more of those standards and incorporating more in our 9th and 10th grade core classes, as well as emphasizing more with our 3rd credit requirement in astronomy, environmental science, and geology, which are in that earth and space science field. So tying more of those concepts and core ideas into what we offer in our core classes.
So we're looking at the science and engineering practices where we take a look at the difference between doing science and doing engineering. We come with a problem, we want them to take risks, feel successful in failing with that, and going back, utilize what's wrong, and try to have that mindset where they have that issue and go back, solve the problem, what went wrong, discuss it with each other, collect the evidence for it, see what the data says, and reroute their thinking and make it work. And doing that in the classroom now, at the middle school level anyway, they get kind of frustrated with that and they want it right away. And so I just step back and they solve it, give them what they need, a little scaffolding here and there, and they figure it out. But it's good to see when a light bulb comes on. It's pretty awesome. Instead of just trying to regurgitate facts back, they can allow those facts to be accumulated and use that content information to actually explain how things work and what happens and why they're happening. And like we said before, it supports the Common Core with math, reading, and writing, the 3 dimensions, the framework. Understands you can support that Common Core through that in the cross-cutting concepts. Take a look at modeling, take a look at writing, take a look at argumentation, and then solving math problems in engineering situations. We can take a look at algebra problems and figuring out probability, using that across the board. For example, in genetics and probability, I see the same thing, use the same terminology. We just apply it to different activities, different subjects in science to utilize and calculate for the variable and things along that line, and higher level thinking patterns. Like for patterns, like for trends, just like do in math, and figure those processes out. And then again, using supportive text, pulling information out of the textbook, not just looking for vocabulary, but what's the author trying to say, what's going on, and what can we do to test for that to see if that makes sense or if it's right, or evidence to support their data, their claims that they have, besides just collecting the information in class. Where can they go out and pull that information in to support what they're trying to argue? And then going forward, we're looking at implementing this now. I know our 6th grade has been doing units and things go along. 8th grade, we are doing that. 7th grade is starting to do that. And so we're building in assessment pieces and taking a look at trying to have them ready to think critically, logically, and have some background information going into the high school so they can know that they can think on their own and solve those higher level thinking problems at the high school. They can go deeper with the content what we do have.
One of the things at the high school level, when we look at the new standards, because they are integrated, it's kind of an integrated approach with these 3 different pieces. It is pretty complex when we look at trying to organize units, and so we're really still in the research mode as what a good model looks like, and trying to find other examples of what other schools are doing. And there's still really not a lot of other schools that have fully implemented and to look at what a good model looks like. There's more getting closer, but a lot of schools are in the same boat, or trying to figure out, well, how does this work with our current system and what we have in place now in our high school, and how does it move on to the next level, to the college level as well. So it's I think this is kind of the start of a shift that's going to end up moving on to the second or post-secondary level in the next few years.
Yeah, I invite you to read the conceptual shifts in that, and the thinking and teaching, what it's supposed to look like compared to what it has been doing, and just on your own. I'm not going to open that up now, unless you want me to. So that's our curriculum, and that's where we're going with it.
So, the elementary level, I think we've talked about a bit, and I'm curious then, will you or will there be curriculum coming forward for the elementary, and how is that going to be developed? And because I know there's a gap as far as the committee involvement, and so I'm trying to figure out, though, we wouldn't have a curriculum without having the K-5 included, correct?
What I'd like to do and see happen is that have some type of professional development with elementary teachers with us and NGSS, and so we could be on the same page and to explore that and how that they can use science to support their reading and writing and math, and how that can actually be built in a little bit more, because some elementary teachers that do have science, some don't. It's kind of sporadic, and it was at the point of doing this we put feelers out for teachers to come to start the process. They were just where we were at with Common Core and where they were at. They just felt overwhelmed. So we were told just to go 6-12 right now, and then because there is a gap coming in, kids not really knowing, being overwhelmed sometimes in 6th grade, what to expect with science, and so to eliminate any anxiety or fear with elementary teachers with the overwhelming of what we have to do and one more thing on their plate. I think if we're to have a conversation about it and take a look at it, what it's asking, it's not rewriting a whole lot of things. It's more just implementing those skills that using science to do some of the same things they're already doing.
I just have a comment on the K-5 piece with having the elementary teachers start to implement this more advanced, almost like prepping them already starting 1st grade, kindergarten. I've seen that with my kids at Prairie View in first and third grade. I remember a year or 2 years ago, my daughter was hypothesizing and talking about what is a hypothesis and kind of doing some test trials of things, and then, you know, getting feedback from her peers about what they thought was going to be more significant. What do they think? Which way do they think it was going to go? The experiment was going to go to the red or the blue? And I was like, that is pretty advanced, but it's just taking it down to a level that they can conceptualize. And I'm thinking, we didn't do that in school. You know, I'm 45, so we weren't there. We weren't doing that, but it seems like it's already happening.
In places.
Yeah, I think.
And I think what you're saying is it's just not happening district-wide.
Consistently.
And I think it's important that, you know, the elementary teachers get support, and they're not expected to figure out these science teaching methods on their own, and that we either support them within the district, you know, with our science people that are specialized in that area, or some other liaison person perhaps that we've seen in other core areas. So that, I think that's important.
Well, good, and I think it's important to bring that forward too on your when you're implementing or the curriculum, the next step, because I think that's going to be key for us to, because I think we support that we feel it should be a K-12 kind of.
Review too.
Yeah. So.
Timing wise is the biggest piece, I think.
But what you're talking about, the professional development and the sharing with them that what they're doing now, but using some science kind of strategies, could just help and benefit and push.
I get a picture where K-5 is,
Yeah.
science, per school, per teacher, and just get an idea of, maybe they're doing more than you think they are or not. It's just tie it together and link it, and
Yeah.
so.
Sounds like a good professional development day, a whole day, bring all the staff
week.
together.
Science week.
Yeah, science week. I like that.
Right.
Sounds like
I
fun.
just had a question about the professional development when it comes to this, because I would imagine that there's different ways to learn something. Teachers have different ways of learning things, and I'm just wondering, you know, professional development day, I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but I'm envisioning sitting in a room and, you know, what have you, getting a presentation or talking, but other people learn differently too. And I wonder if just observing another teacher or co-teaching, you know, just offering options of ways to practice the skill. And I don't know how much time we have to do those things, but
I think they've done some of that, or there's a science something maybe even at the university where in the summer they do that, where they can go in and actually come away with lesson plans and things like that. But if we do something district-wide, I suspect, as we've done with other initiatives, like when we started looping, I remember looping, well, we had a core group that learned it, developed the skills, developed the strategies for it, and then brought it back to the district, and then, as you said, other staff went in and observed it, you know, looked at how they implemented it, and it wasn't everybody going and sitting in a classroom for a day. So that's probably, I'm seeing head nodding, and that's probably similar as to how they would do it, but good. Any other questions? Kate?
I want to piggyback on what you said, and I think that what has been done with reading, writing, and math has been awesome. But I think most of our teachers will say what that has done, and maybe you can answer this for me, is what time does that leave for science and tech? And what curriculum do we have? I don't think we have one unless it is described as lesson plans that they make and looking at state standards, but our teachers don't have materials that look like all the materials in all the elementary schools. And there are beautiful state-of-the-art science materials out there. Are you looking at that to talk to your teachers so that it's not, like one of you mentioned that reading and writing support math and science? Well, science needs to report to support that too. It's huge.
Science.
It's
Science
huge.
writing is slightly different than writing
It is,
a
and
constructed response.
And
or
our
something.
elementary teachers, they all have different majors. Without a major in science, it's really hard to come up with a state-of-the-art lesson plan. And I'm all about giving our teachers less time to plan, give them something they approve of, that they like, but they can take it out, and like you said, professional development, they study what that is, but boom, they can hit the ground running, rather than, let's take all the second grade teachers, I'm just randomly pulling that out. Okay, here's how you make a good science lesson. That's not what we need. We need a core. So how close are we to having a standard science program and materials in this district?
So we do have what are called FOSS kits
Yes.
available.
But-
The challenge is they're very expensive, and to supply them in every building for every teacher becomes a challenge. And the other challenge that comes about that is in an elementary, like you say, here's your lesson and I have to read, study it, and learn it so I know how to deliver that. And I think they're right on the right track. Instead of that, let's figure out how we can integrate the science into the lessons we already have with our literacy and math. So when you're doing a math lesson on counting and things, you can actually use science concepts within that lesson. So it's kind of bringing a team together to figure out where do some of these science concepts and inquiry-based learning fit into some of these other lessons that are going on. Because that does become a challenge in
Yeah,
the
and
day of a elementary school teacher's day. There's only so many. And the kids need time to go outside and play too. Time to eat lunch and,
Yeah, I really don't disagree with anything
Yeah.
you just said, that integration is important, but a special time for science is also important. And some of our kids who may be struggling in reading and writing are rock stars in science. And to see all of our teachers, not lockstep teaching, but to have the same stuff in front of them that they
Because
can
we've
pull
said,
together.
as a school district, that we believe it, if you go to one elementary or the other, you should be getting basically the same services, the same
And that's the only
programs.
reason I'm bringing it up, is I think that consistency is important. And I'm so proud of reading and writing and the movement that has happened with that in math. But I think science is like on the back burner now, and let's,
Yep, that's why we're studying it, and the
Yes.
curriculum is moving forward, so. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for the information, and it's very intriguing, and we appreciate what you do for our students each and every day, so thank you so much. Okay, then we have summer school.
some peanuts. I thought you would. Sometimes you don't.
Just saw they're moving
Which one, to dismantle education? Hello.
Hi. So we're here to talk about the upcoming summer school program. I have the elementary portion. We are having elementary summer school during the same time frame as last year, July 17th to August 3rd, so 14 days. And we are at Sand Lake Elementary this year. So just the program changes that are different from last year. The location, the elementary principals and I got together a couple years ago and decided that they really would like to rotate in order to accomplish some things during the summer that need to be taken care of, building maintenance, for example, or cleaning. So this year we'll be at Sand Lake. The time will be a little bit different. We're serving breakfast from 7:45 to 8:15, so buses will arrive between 7:40 and 8 o'clock, which is pretty early for the kiddos to get on the bus and get there by that time. But classes are going to be from 8:25 to 11:25. The number of classes that we're going to have during the morning will be 3 instead of 2. As the board policy states, our main focus for summer school is reading and math remedial support. And so we are going to offer both reading and math remedial, but we also want them to have an enrichment class as well. And then our Closing the Gap courses, reading and we are focusing on reading and math. Last year we did focus mainly on reading. And for special education, the change is that all of the special education students they could be recommended for reading or math remedial support, but they'll also be in enrichment. But we're not going to have any pull-out classes per se. We will have rooms set aside if a child needs to take a break or something like that. And for early childhood, we are going more towards a playgroup model. We are looking at going on Tuesdays and Thursdays instead of the original July to August dates there. So early childhood will be just a little bit different for the early childhood special education class. So here are the areas. Again, the closing the gap areas would be math and reading. We are having an ESL program within summer school, so students need to be recommended for that as well. The ESL teachers and the classroom teachers collaborate to determine which students need to be taking those ESL classes versus the other summer school classes that are offered. And of course, we will provide some services for those students who have IEPs and need some special ed support. Ready, Set, Let's Learn is for incoming kindergarten students. We always get a high turnout for that. It's really a great class. We try to pair up all the students who are going to be in one elementary school. We try to put them in the same class so they can start to get to know some of their friends and teachers. And then we have just a variety of enrichment courses that are going to be available. Just finalized the classes recently and really looking forward to some great new classes that we're going to be offering. You can see those online soon within the next week or so. Take a look at the elementary summer school course handbook for what will be offered. So again, here is just the criteria in the Closing the Gap courses. There has to be teacher recommendation for the reading and math remedial support. Special ed services, of course, students have to have an IEP. Ready, Set, Let's Learn, there really is no criteria except that they have to be entering kindergarten in the fall. And there's 1, 2, or 3 enrichment classes available depending on if a child is recommended for reading, then they'll have 2 enrichment. If they're recommended for reading and math, then they'll have 1 enrichment. And if they're not recommended for any, they'll have 3 enrichment classes. So just a timeline here. I do have March 1st down for when the handbook is going to be available online. That's a hefty goal there. It might be a couple days later than that. So I just want to put that out there that March 1st is probably, I'm doing my best, but it might be like March 3rd or something.
Will you
Otherwise,
extend on the other side then because you've got the 14th, March 1st through the 14th?
what happens is we're actually having 2 registration phases. So we first want to get the kids that are going to be enrolled in Ready, Set, Let's Learn, because that's always the highest number of kids that participate. So I need to know how many classes we need, how many sections we need, so I know how many rooms are available for each grade level. So we're doing Ready, Set, Let's Learn. The ESL students, it's kind of the same thing. How many students are going to be involved to know how much space we need for those classrooms. And then our reading and math, the students that were recommended for the remedial support, we need to know how many of those students are also participating so that we know what type of a space we need. If there's only a small number of students, we might be able to put them in like a small group area. So everyone else will be registering from March 15th to April 15th. And so that's the general time frame, is March 15th to April 15th. And then you can see there I also have some different things on the timeline as far as teacher postings for the teaching the classes. And then parents will be notified in the end of year report cards which classes their students are enrolled in. So I think that's it for elementary, summer school, middle school science.
All right, I'm going to update you a little bit on summer school at the middle school. July 17th to August 3rd is when we will welcome back the middle schoolers to the middle school once again. Focus areas again, closing the gap, looking at our ESL students, working with our students in our ID autism program, and then as well as supporting students in math, reading, and writing. Something we're continuing to look at, continuing to try and grow as well, is some of our enrichment areas. Band is always highly attended in the summer at the middle school. It's a great time for our teachers to spend a little more time with our students and for them to get ready for the very exciting upcoming marching band season. Orchestra meets, and then we're also continuing to try and extend in reading, writing, and math areas. Being one-to-one, technology is always fun for our students to extend as well, and then continuing to look at wellness and art. These enrichment classes are nice. They create a balance for our students during that summertime when they're coming in, and they're having to do some of that work, especially for those students that are working in areas that are more difficult to have to come in the summertime. It's nice for them to have that balance with some enrichment classes too. The anticipated staffing needs, you can see them up there. They very much match what was on that page before. With the offerings that are there, as well as just some support building wide as we look at the health aid in the office, and then some aides throughout the building. So that's what we're looking at as for our anticipated staffing needs as we're looking at that. Pretty brief summary. Unless you have any questions for me, I can turn it over to the high school.
No? Go ahead. Nick.
Thank you, Mr. Vogler. Good evening. Thanks for having us. I'm just going to give you a quick update on the high school summer school program. I see one mistake on the slide. The April 14th date there should be April 11th. I believe that's a Tuesday. That was my mistake. That will be the day that we get information out to parents, families, and students. And believe it or not, parents will have that date marked and really pay attention that day. We have a handful of students that eagerly await the opportunity for summer school. Just a general belief in summer school, Dr. Mueller and the administration at the high school, I think, firmly believes in providing opportunities, and we want to definitely do a better job of encouraging students to fill these sections. The past 6 years that I've done summer school, we've offered some nice varieties, but we never end up having all the classes run because we don't have enough students sign up for the classes. So that's something our counselors and teachers will work hard to do to really encourage students to take advantage of those opportunities. Just some brief information. You see we have 32 student capacity, meaning that the classes cannot take more than 32 students. When they sign up, so after that April 11th date, the priority for students getting into the course is if they have a credit deficiency towards graduation. The upperclassmen, so upper grades, would have priority, and then the order of submission, so first come, first serve. And it honestly gets down to the minute, and we have a secretary that works hard to keep accurate records on that.
Just so you know, the April 11th date is marked in my calendar. It's my granddaughter's birthday, so very
Excellent.
significant date. I'll remember.
You know what? It's my parents' anniversary. I hope they're watching tonight.
There you go.
I really
That's
doubt
why
they
you
are.
picked it. Yeah.
Just some courses, and if you've seen the courses we've run in the past, really a new course is the government blended course. Really excited for that opportunity. We're trying something new that we actually offered last year, but unfortunately we did not run the courses, but a blended format, and we're hoping more students will be interested in this, especially with the exposure to the one-to-one, and more of our classes throughout the school year actually utilizing technology in that way. So excited to see if we have enough students sign up for that class. The other ones on here are just the traditional courses we run over the summer, often to free up space during their regular school year schedules. We have more and more students that are looking to take advanced placement courses and take advantage of the wide variety of options offered at the high school. So a combination between enrichment and remedial. Like the middle school, our music program is really running on high octane in the summer. And that's all I have, unless you have some questions.
Any questions? Kate?
I have two questions. One is in regard to elementary. It sounds like even if a child has reading and math, they still have an opportunity for an enrichment class.
That's
Is
correct.
that correct? So that's cool. I like that a lot because of lots of reasons I've said before. And then the other question is, I wonder in terms of middle or high school, are there plans to perhaps, because I'm thinking of all our kids that are of high school age and they have jobs and blah, 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 and that competes, I'm sure, with your programming. Are there plans to look down the line with, I see Plato has online learning. are there more plans to offer a bunch of stuff where it wouldn't matter if there was just a smaller number of students that are online? Because they're doing that now at, TC and every place else. Kids are, where are?
Yeah, you're really hitting a hot topic there. There's
Really?
there's interest in that, certainly.
Well, thank
we
you.
wanna do a good job of planning for that and making sure that the standards in a setting like that are aligned with the standards in our traditional courses, and make sure that the rigor and the challenge is there for the online.
Are there wheels out there, I guess, that?
Yeah, I guess the wheel right now is the blended course, where the students in that blended government course would meet 3 days face-to-face to go over some expectations, some small group discussion, and some of those instructional strategies that we value in a face-to-face setting. And then the other 15 days would be in an online setting.
Okay.
So that's kind of our trial.
That's cool. Thank you for doing that. And then I guess,
I was just gonna say, what's happened in the last year is that they've loosened up how you can actually deliver instruction where students have to be in the seat to get some reimbursement. So it's opened the door for us to be able to offer more online opportunities. So that's like Mr. Weber said, that's what we're working towards in the future.
great.
So then you wouldn't have to say you need 12 students necessarily, because you
Yeah.
could have a teacher that could teach multiple courses online possibly.
Right.
So we want to work through what that model looks like, so
yeah.
where students can
Last
be successful.
question that I just have is like, it'd be fun to see some data, like if kids could take it online, would they?
That's true too.
Just so that we know what our base is, like, yeah, I'd be all about that. I could do that, to see if there is
I
an
know
audience, so to speak.
We've got some interest in the virtual school that we've been talking about, and I think this is one of those things that's going to help maybe lay that foundation for that. But I don't know if they necessarily have data about summer school, but they do
Yeah.
have data related to what is the interest in virtual learning, so we'll continue.
And it addresses a philosophy of preparing students that are going to have this in college. A lot of colleges or post-secondary have online requirements or options, so
Yeah.
preparing students in that way also.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. Then we will move on to the preliminary budget, the 2017-18 preliminary budget, and Julie is coming forward.
Good evening. It's that time of year when the budget development calendar calls for a preview of the 17-18 budget. So just to keep in mind, this is a starting point at this time. It's still February. The development of the 17-18 budget includes the variables that the board approved in December of 2016. Quick reminder of those approved variables include 1.5% estimated increase on wages, 6% on health insurance premiums, 2% on dental insurance premiums, 0.5% electricity, 2% water and sewer, 2% property liability premiums, and 1.5% on workers' compensation premiums. In addition to the board-approved variables from December, I have increased in the forecast model the per pupil categorical aid in order to reflect the current legislative proposal of an additional $200 per pupil in year one or 17-18 budget year. We will monitor and adjust the proposed budget with the actual increase when that is made known. The input variable estimates are used to create a starting point and a 5-year forecast. In addition to the forecast has also been adjusted to include current year to date budget revisions. As you are aware, you have approved a construction on the district office, and without including the dollars associated with that construction within the revised budget, we would be forecasting off of poor data from last October. So that's been included to forecast off a revised budget and those changes that have been made year to date. The preliminary 2017-18 budget does not include the dollar amounts associated with the April 2017 referendum questions. Again, it does not include those. If those questions are approved, we will adjust accordingly.
The preliminary budgets are being presented in the DPI format according to the budget development calendar. Next, I'm going to go to line 8 on the preliminary budget, last column, fourth column, and I'll just go through the major line items and explain those as we go down. So in line 8, the projected fund balance at the end of June 2018 and is an estimated $10,764,000. This represents an actual budget deficit where expenditures for 17-18 in the general fund exceed their revenue by $176,000. Just to put this into perspective, this is actually just 0.38% of the total expenditure budget. And again, it is preliminary. Next, I'm going to go down to line 32 and line 33, which is the general fund, state aid categorical and state aid general dollars that we get from the Department of Instruction. You will notice an increase from 1.3 million to 2.1 million in the per pupil categorical aid. That's a reflection of the additional dollars from $250 to $450 on the per pupil amount that's being proposed. The next line item is line 33 and shows an increase from $28,698,000 to $29 million, and that is an increase based on the projected 32 additional in-seat enrollment count in the forecast model. Next, we will go down to line 48. This is the federal sources of revenue. At this time, it is projected no change. The reason for this is due to the reauthorization of the ESEA Act to the Every Student Succeeds Act, and kind of the holding pattern that we're told to wait and see because the new legislation has not been distributed to the states. There was a few people that attended the federal funding conference last week, and they were told, you know, hold tight, continue to do your plans, and so this, we imagine, could be changed, but for now, we're just using status quo. So that, those dollar amounts include things in the general fund like Title I and Title II, and then in the special education fund, IDEA flow-through and IDEA preschool entitlement. Next, I'll take you down to line 58, which is the total revenue for the general fund, estimated at $46,806,000. This is a 2.1% increase over the current year revised budget. Now we move on to the expenditure budget for the general fund. Line 71 stands out as an increase of nearly 4%. That is representing the construction to the district office, which falls under function $250,000 in facilities repair improvement additions. So you approved that as a 2-year plan. So there's an increase in both the revised budget for the current year and an increase for 17-18, and then those dollars will be available to be redirected elsewhere within the budget. Line 77 is an interfund transfer to the special education fund. There is a projected increase as we continue to monitor the annual Medicaid revenue, and also monitor the federal funding for IDEA flow-through. So as special education revenue goes down and expenses goes up due to staffing and benefits, there could potentially be an increase in the fund transfer to continue to support the special education fund. Total expenditures in the general fund on line 81 is estimated at $46,982,000, and that is a 2.5% increase. Next, we will move on to the Special Projects Fund. Last year, or the beginning of 16-17 budget year, they pulled the Special Projects Fund out. It used to be combined with special education. Special Project Fund is the gift accounts, so fundraising, donations, all run through Fund 21. We do not have a Fund 23 or a 29 in this district. We continue to carry a fund balance going forward. This was an unusual fund. The gifts carry over, so if they don't spend them down in those different areas, we budget the new budget year based on their fund balances. And although they typically exceed $500,000 in revenue and expenses each year, we only budget what they actually carry over and then adjust accordingly and reconcile each time. Next, we'll look at the Special Education Fund 27. This fund's not allowed to go into deficit, which is why we have to annually make a transfer from the operating fund. The estimated special education revenue and expenses for 2017-18, sorry, I'm trying to get there, is $9,001,591. Next, we'll move on to the debt service fund. Again, I mentioned that the referendum questions are not included in this preliminary budget. If those pass, the debt service fund will look very different for 17-18. It currently represents an increase in the fund balance and a debt service levy the same as the current year, so that the revenues would be, the certified levy plus interest would be approximately 3.7 million, and then the long-term capital debt principal and interest due is just about 2.3 million. So with revenue exceeding expenditures, the fund balance in the debt service fund would grow. As you are aware and has been communicated to the community, if the referendum questions pass, this will be adjusted in a combination of both a lower debt levy and using debt defeasance or prior savings within the debt service fund to help offset that for no net tax increase. Finally, we have the food service fund, Fund 50. This has very minor changes to reflect increase in wages and benefits. At this point in time, Mike Gasper, school nutrition supervisor, is monitoring the federal proposals regarding block grants to states for school nutrition. And that could, he anticipates if that does happen, his revenue from the federal reimbursement on meals will be significantly decreased. So we'll have to continue to monitor that and make adjustments as we learn more. Any questions?
Any questions? Kate?
Is there a reason that the money is going down for food service? I think I'm out of the loop with that, like where that's coming from.
You mean
I
if
don't
there's
know if I'm
block
completely
grants?
qualified to comment on it, except for it's my understanding that if the block grants are given to the states instead of our reimbursement coming directly from the federal government, we would most likely lose the portion of reimbursement that we get currently on fully paid meals. So right now we get a small dollar amount on fully paid, and then we get free and reduced reimbursement. And it's estimated that if that switches from federal to a state block grant, that portion of reimbursement currently for fully paid meals would go away. Jay, do you have any?
Oh, I just had a question about
I just wondered if that.
No, I wouldn't have said it any different than you did.
Okay.
Okay.
So our annual increase in our meals would be affected by that. Like that, we will have to pay more, the taxpayer will have to pay more for the meals if we're getting less reimbursement.
That's the most likely solution, because the alternative would be to reduce expenses by reducing the quality of the meals we serve.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think that's going to be, excuse the unpalatable solution. So I think you're right. That would probably be the first solution we'd pursue, raising the price of the meals.
And isn't there a rule that says we have to increase? Isn't there something that says that we have to increase the price of the meals annually?
That's the current rules, but as you know, with the changes that have occurred in Washington, there's no certainty that any of the prior rules will continue. But that is the prior. Current.
Would that also affect our very needy families? Would their prices go up even with a reduced, or is that pretty safe?
That's more safe for those families.
Okay.
That their
Although
costs would.
they
The
are
free
saying
meal's
there
a
is
free
no free
meal.
lunch.
You
You
would-
have to offer that, right?
Right, the
That's a
free meal's a
mandate.
free meal, but the reduced price meals would be more likely to be sheltered from the price increase.
Thank you.
More than likely, but I mean, you're hearing things about even the free and reduced, that the free and reduced could be possibly eliminated. I mean, that's come out, so, or been said.
Okay.
So, any questions about the budget in general? Okay. So, I know that the deficit, slight deficit as related, but in the past 4 to 5 years, we have slightly underspent our budget anyway, have we not?
We have. And even with the deficit, you're still looking at a fund balance as a percentage of expenditures of over 23%.
Right.
So, recent years, we've been looking at building that up for cash flow needs, for example. And now we're doing some construction, and then we'll replenish and put that towards whatever the next thing is that we want to reallocate those dollars to.
We still want to target those goals slowly.
Right.
But yet, understand that we aren't necessarily doing a deficit, it's just reducing the amount that we're targeted to go into that cash fund, so.
And there's, again, many variables within the forecast.
Because I'm always told you can't do a deficit budget, but technically we aren't, so, okay. Zero-based is a good thing. Okay, all right, thank you very much, Julie.
Thank you.
And this is not on our agenda for this evening. I don't know, do we approve the?
We don't have the preliminary on consent.
Okay.
So we'll bring the proposed budget in a few months.
And are we going to wait to approve the initial one until after the referendum, or will we do it before that, maybe?
It's on the budget calendar for after the referendum.
Okay.
Either way. Yep.
All right, wonderful, thank you. Oh, I have to get back to the agenda.
Excuse me.
So then the next item, I see Melissa coming up already, employee handbook language revisions.
All right, so each of the language pieces coming forward tonight have gone through the Employee Relations Team, and Personnel Governance Committee saw them a few weeks ago. So the first piece of language is the discrimination and harassment piece. The recommendation tonight would be to remove this language based on the update to the recent Equal Opportunity Policy, 511. Our goal, I think, within the handbook and policy is to avoid duplication, so employees aren't having to search multiple places, finding it in one place, wondering if it's different language in the other, those types of things. So the recommendation would be to remove the language from the handbooks referencing just the policy. However, we do have a form that we have now included in the employee handbook appendix that allows staff to have the opportunity to submit, if they believe wrongful behavior has been conducted, they can submit a discrimination and harassment form to Human Resources. There's also another section that allows them to submit a form under that violent and threatening behavior that may affect their performance, or the grievance procedures as well for safety related issues. So there's still opportunities within the handbook for them to file these types of complaints if they feel they have been subject to these types of harassment, or they can go to board policy as well for additional information. The next one is the equal opportunity. This is just updating that board policy. We did change, make a few changes, added 511. It used to be just referenced under 411, but we now have 511 as well for the staff portion. The next is related to teacher language. This talks about the payment that we provide for those teachers who are mentors in our district to new teachers. It is a state law that we do have to have mentors for our new teachers. And just based on some additional responsibilities that they have, some new curriculum initiatives that we have going on, the recommendation is to increase the payment to those teachers who are mentoring our new educators. So increasing those from that were currently $300 to $400, so an extra $100 a year, and an extra $50 a year for those who are providing the half school year mentorship. And then making a correction in that last sentence. The summer school rates and the curriculum rates are completely different rates, so just making sure we're consistently moving to that one piece that is the accurate way to find that compensation rate.
And are these going to take effect this school year or next school year?
These would go into place right now. The mentor contracts have already been issued for this year, so that language would take place for.
So they've been issued at this level?
I believe they have been, so it is an update to the current language.
It's just, this is one of those examples. I know we had been, because benefits can change throughout the year, and there's the fear that there's going to be a negative benefit. We could take something away, and this is just one of those examples of where, well, this can be added, you know, this, they're going to be getting additional benefits. We're not going to wait until the next school year to do it or whatever, that it's taking place. So just wanting to, I know there was that concern along the line, so.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the mentorship
Oops, sorry.
policy involve what's expected of the mentor as far as their role or what they need to produce as far as like documentation of how the mentee's doing?
It's not in the employee handbook. I believe that's handled separately. They do go to professional development and what they need to do to be a mentor.
Okay.
So that is provided for them.
Do they sign a separate contract to be a mentor? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I suspect it's included there, the expectation.
I don't know that the expectations are really
They have
clearly stated in the contract, but they do have
a required training that they attend in the summer before the school year starts.
I think
So I think the question is there some place though, if they're, still if they go to that training, is there somewhere where it's documented that they understand that this is the, what's the expectation?
They get a whole guidebook.
Okay, they get a guidebook. Okay, see, there you go. Thank you.
Dr. Tronstad.
And I think too, we can seem to have the same mentors on a year-to-year basis. So a lot of them are continually in that role. So. So the two post-employment pieces are almost identical. We made these language changes based on some audit errors that are most common when found to be incompliant with the IRS. So these changes are really recommended directly from our attorney. So it's really just clarifying some language for the TSA distribution. We were missing and had lack of clarity on some benefits upon death language within this. And we also added the hardship language that was not previously included in this language. So there's no change to the post-employment benefits. It's really just helping the employees understand what those benefits upon death opportunities are in the hardship language as well. So, and again, same for under both sections, the teachers and the administrator and supervisor. So, and keeping those mirrored so it's very similar as you move along under either piece of language. Next is the educational lane adjustment. So this applies to teachers. This language would come into play if a teacher is submitting credits to move on a lane on the salary schedule. Currently, the language that we have doesn't really give our payroll department ample time to get contracts out before the school year starts. Which is really not in the best interest of our teachers. So the language really doesn't apply to a very large percentage of our staff. So in meeting with the different groups and some different teachers, moving from August 15th to August 1st for teachers to not submit their final credits, but just to let us know that they're going to be submitting some credits. And we take action to assume they will be getting those, and we can get our contracts issued then before the first day of school even starts. So this would be a great change for us versus waiting until we have all those credits in, as we have done in the past, and sometimes those contracts don't even come out till October or November. So getting them in the hands of teachers will be much earlier if this language goes through. So. The last piece then, this again is just recommended changes based on reviewing some IRS requirements. There really isn't any change in the benefit that's being offered under, this falls under the hourly employees reimbursement for uniforms, protective clothing. Our mechanics have some tool reimbursement because they provide all of their own tools for fixing buses, or most of their tools for fixing the buses. So just adding the language to make sure we are compliant with the IRS and when we're paying out these benefits and reimbursements. So all the language tonight would come forward at the next meeting for approval. Do you have any questions or questions? No?
Just the only, the comment I'll make is related to the education lane. You know,
Yes.
I don't know why we have that language in our, if we're not gonna do it, either we should do it every year, or we should take it out, or we need to do a new compensation model where it reflects that. So, I understand why you're changing those dates, but if it doesn't happen, if we aren't issuing contracts based on increased credits because we aren't moving lanes anymore, or we did previously last year, I think we did, but just my little snarky reminder that that we need to continue to work on that, so. So, and these, as you said, are not on this agenda,
Correct.
they are on the next
So if there's
next
any
meeting's agenda.
questions later or feedback.
Yeah, if you have any questions, let Dr. Mueller know, and, but they have gone through the both of those committees, the
Yes.
educate, employment, yeah. So thank you very much for
Thank
doing
you.
that. So then, the next item is the consent agenda. We have 6 items on the consent agenda. Are there any things you would like to have pulled separately for consideration? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I'll let you fight that out. Any comments? And seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Then board, oh, yes.
I just have
under
to
personnel.
announce, yeah, we have a few retirements. It's that time of year. So I just want to share. We have 3 elementary teachers totaling 89 years of service in the district together. When you see this, it amazes me. Just shows you the dedication, and they like to be here, you know. Amy Graybo, she's an elementary teacher at Evergreen, 33 years of service to the district. And then Mary King over at Prairie View, in that 29 years of service. And then Lola Kleinsmith is another elementary teacher at 27 years of service. So just thank all of them for their dedication and all the years that they served the students in our district, and all the memories I'm sure they made with the families. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So then, board member reports and discussion. I'll call on board members. If you have any comments or meeting updates or reports, please share those. Kate Mayer.
I don't have anything.
Okay, Lisa Collins.
I don't have anything.
Rebecca Reber?
I don't have anything.
Gary Dunlap?
Wow.
I know.
I'd like to make one quick comment, and that was, we still have a lot of work to do with harassing and bullying in the schools. I know we're doing a lot of work in the high schools, and we're making some real improvement. My grandkids are sharing what they're learning and stuff, but I was at a sporting event this week, and for some reason, there's a group of upperclassmen who feel empowered to harass the other team, and they almost had this kid on the floor in tears, and he started to respond to these kids, and then when he came off the floor at the end of the game, these kids went down on the floor and followed him nose to nose, followed him off the floor, and he was giving them obscene gestures, etc. It's completely uncalled for and completely unacceptable. And then a couple parents came down and intervened as well in the favor of the students that were doing the harassing of this kid. And it was just gut-wrenching, and I don't understand how kids can see that this, why, you go to 7th grade games, 8th grade games, freshman games, etc. All of a sudden, when they get this certain age of upperclassmen, they feel like they're empowered to do things like this. And I just don't understand. It's going to take a lot of work as a school district, but it's going to take a lot of work as a community and parents to let these kids know it's completely unacceptable in this community to act that way and to respond that way to another team that's here. We're supposed to be their hosts, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
It just broke my heart, and it wasn't a big thing. I don't think it was noticed by a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people coming out of the crowd stopped and watched what was going on, but I don't think it was noticed a lot it was late, the game was over with, but he walked right down the floor and followed this kid off the floor, and I felt so bad for him.
Wow.
It's just unacceptable. So I want to make that comment that we still got a lot of work to go.
Yes, we do, every day.
Every day.
Okay, and let's see, Anita Jagosinski.
Okay. And we used to get sportsmanship awards quite a bit from the
Yeah.
WIA, and I hope we still do. I would think that we still do. Just a couple of things. I wanted to say, when you mentioned that Brooklyn Paulson made her 1,000th point, I have to say, and I don't usually, but I played bunco with Kimmy Paulson for a number of years. So I have to say, Kimmy Paulson, if you are watching, I miss you at bunco. Congratulations to Brooklyn Paulson. I'm very, very proud of her. So, Kimmy, you did a good job raising her, and your husband too. The only other thing I have to say is 29 years ago at this time, I was waiting for the band to show up at our wedding reception, so happy anniversary with my husband.
Oh, happy anniversary, Gary. Oh, that's so nice. Okay, well then it's me. I wasn't able to attend the Student Achievement and Learning. Was there anything of note?
No, we just reviewed our student records, and we also reviewed the actual form and identifying what areas. It was a very good conversation. And what we talked about is it really isn't the areas of identifying on the directory, it's how we go about with certain organizations and groups and identifying how we're going to go about that. So they did a great job of conversation and discussion. So at the next meeting, we should be able to move pretty quickly on that.
Wonderful. And then I will just say, on a note, I was at the district office one afternoon. I think it was 2:47, something like that. And if you can imagine students getting out, maybe it was like I saw it firsthand. I thought, oh my God, I'm never going to get out of here. I just was going to make a quick stop. But some polite student let me take a left turn out of the district, the upper parking lot. But getting across was kind of tricky at that point in time. So yes, it always is. It is a safety issue, that we have, and it is, I think, some of the plans we have on the referendum will help offset that. And then Anita wanted to mention something.
Sorry, I forgot to mention this also. The day at the Capitol, I don't know if anyone else is planning to go. It's March 15th in Madison to meet with your legislators and advocate for public schools. It's very important. Kate and I went a couple of years ago. You get to talk to the Joint Finance Committee in the morning. They listen to you, all the members. They don't always do what you'd like them to do, but you do get to meet with them. And then you go to the Capitol in the afternoon, and then you also get to listen to a debate of the state superintendent candidates and ask them questions at a luncheon. It's a really, really vital day, so if anyone else is interested in going, I'm going down the night before to be there bright and early at registration. I think it opens at like 8 o'clock, 7:30, something like that, so very important. If any of you would like to join me, it would be awesome. March 15th.
Okay, great. And then I've got to think, I don't know if Julie is responsible for this at my place, the audit report, Engelson and Associates. But is that a new firm, or is that, have we had them for?
I think this is the third year.
Third year, okay. Because they're doing Cooley Councils, and oh my goodness, they are very, very thorough, aren't they? So thank you. I'll take this home. Oh, sure. Well, I'll take this home and share it with my accountant husband, and he can read it. So thank you very much. Yeah, give me the Cliff Notes exactly. So I would just note that you received information from the Student Achievement and Learning Committee, and then we meet on the 13th, and March 15th is the WASB Day, and then we meet again on the 27th of March. Anything else to come forward?
Holmen wrestling boys are going to state Friday, Saturday.
It's the
Good
team
luck.
one, right?
It's the team state,
Team,
yes.
yeah.
So, good luck to
And
the
I
boys.
think at Marion, Iowa, the show choir actually did quite well too over the weekend. Band, and they got a lot of awards, I noticed. So, okay, then Kate, if you would read the executive session motion, please.
Absolutely. Be it resolved that the Board of Ed hereby moves to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public administrator's evaluation, and consideration and approval of an employment separation agreement for an administrative staff member.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
And Kate, if you would do the roll call, please.
Yes, please answer yes or no. Myself, yes. Lisa Collins,
Yes.
Rebecca Reber,
Yes.
Gary Dunlap,
Here.
Tom is excused, Cheryl Hancock,
Yes.
and Anita Jakuzinski.
Okay, we will reconvene in just a couple minutes once we clear the room.